I believe that, a judge is not just a learned professional and they understand the law, but they also have empathy and compassion.
Hello and welcome to our Nevada Judges. I'm your host, Scott Coffey. We're continuing our judicial interviews, and today I have the pleasure of interviewing Jessica Smith-Peterson,
Hi.
who is a candidate for Las Vegas Justice Court. Full disclosure, she's also a colleague of mine,
Yes.
has my utmost trust, but let's talk a little bit about the judicial race.
Okay.
Where are you running?
So I'm running for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 4. This was recently opened in July. Judge Zaragoza or Judge Stratton had retired, and they opened the seat July 22nd to July 26th. And I put my name in the hat on July 26th, and this is week 3 that we've been in the race.
So it is fast.
It is fast, yes.
How are you doing with the pace?
It's funny. A lot of people ask, like, how do I feel? I am actually an extrovert. So I enjoy talking to people. I get a lot of energy from talking to people. And it's a nice way to have a balance between my work life, my home life, and then campaign life, which are 3 separate things, but they all seem to be melding together in this quick race.
I don't hear much sleep in there.
So I at least get 7 to 8 hours of sleep. I do try to prioritize sleep as well as food because I can get cranky. So very cognizant of that.
Very good. So tell the people, what do you do right now?
So I am a chief deputy public defender at the Clark County Public Defender's Office. I'm specifically on the outers team. So the outers team goes to Henderson, North Las Vegas, and then the more rural parts of the state. So Good Springs, Laughlin, Mesquite. However, I am designated specifically in North Las Vegas. So I'm in courtroom 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm also in the district courts downtown.
So you're familiar with the seat that you're running for then?
So I am running for the Las Vegas Justice Court seat. So
Okay.
I was downtown when I first became a public defender. I appeared in front of Judge Ann Zimmerman. I also appeared in front of Judge Joe Bonaventure. And then in 2021, I was moved to the outers team where I'm specifically designated in North Las Vegas. So I've been downtown. I'm now kind of like in the outers, but not the rural parts, but I do know the court system pretty well.
And how long have you been a practicing attorney?
So I have been practicing for 7 years. The first year that I was out here, I was a law clerk for the ACLU of Nevada. And I've been at the PD's office since August of 2017.
All right. And went to school in Washington, D.C., right? Georgetown?
No, so my husband went to Georgetown. I went to Howard University School of Law for law school, and I went to UCLA for undergrad. So
Okay.
go Bruins.
So both coasts, though.
Yes, both coasts. And my husband and our 2 children, we've decided to make Nevada our home. So we've been here raising our kids and doing the good that we can.
There you go. And I take it that's why you're running for the Justice of Peace spot. You'd like to do some more good, perhaps.
I do. I've always dedicated myself to the service of others. Outside of being a law clerk for the ACLU of Nevada and outside of being at the public defender's office where I've spent most of my career, I've also like interned or worked with like the public defender service, which is the public defender office in DC. I worked for the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division. I volunteer when I can with the National Bar Association, Las Vegas Urban League Young Professionals. So I try to make sure that the work that I'm doing is dedicated to the community, but also that the work that I'm not doing is in service of the community. So this is just an extension of that.
So you've been somewhat a criminal specialist working in the public defender's office for the last 7 years. Justice of the Peace, I know district courts are split, but Justice of the Peace, not so much, correct? This would be
Correct.
right in your wheelhouse, for lack of a better description.
That is correct, yes. So what it is now is that, so the Las Vegas Justice of the Peace, they have a mostly criminal calendar, but they also do temporary protective orders. Civil, so housing, landlord, tenant evictions, those actually go to a hearing master. So the JPs typically just work again, in the criminal TPO realm.
So, how many cases do you handle right now? Probably a pretty big caseload.
Right, probably. Um, so I think my caseload is lowered just a little bit because I was out on leave, but now that I'm back, it's starting to pick up. So I am in justice court at least twice a week. So if we're looking at a 4 to 5 week calendar month, there are 3 weeks where I am in justice court twice a week, and then there's 1 week where I'm in there once a week, and then I'm in a district court, um, and then there's a week that I'm off.
Okay. And our viewers don't necessarily have the luxury of going down resumes or seeing what people do. I am lucky enough to be a little familiar with your background. You've had some fairly significant cases and some good successes.
Yes, yes. So I have been to trial more than a few times. I've won, I think, 4 or 5 of those trials, and these are jury trials. We have in Nevada the ability, I believe it was back in 2019, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the chance to have the first like battery domestic violence trial. Now it seems like a very scary charge. However, I'm a constitutionalist. I believe in the Constitution. I believe that individuals have rights, and that also includes the right to a jury. It was my understanding the first jury trial in Clark County. So not in the state of Nevada, but in Clark County, and we received a not guilty. Um, it's unanimous, so there are only 6 jurors. But outside of that, I put on preliminary hearings often, if not weekly, then at least every other week.
Yeah, I'd forgot about that. You do have the opportunity to actually do some trial work or sit in judgment on a trial if you're a justice of the peace at this point,
Yes.
perhaps, for battery DV. So I would imagine that trial experience might come in handy.
Yes, yes. Especially when it comes down to, outside of the rules of evidence, but also how do you interact with jurors? What I found in my trial experience is that people may try to get out of jury duty. But what I have seen is that the cases that I've taken to a jury, the judges were really integral in ensuring that they had a really great time. And I often talk to them after the trial just to see how they felt, what we could do to be better, and what their experience was. And 9 times out of 10, they're like, we thoroughly enjoyed this. This was great. It's an amazing experience. And I think a large part of that, outside of me being a great attorney, is the judge that's sitting there and ensuring that, they're comfortable, that they understand what's happening, and that everything is good.
So, what do you have a particular judicial philosophy? Have you thought about sitting in judgment much?
Yeah. So one of the things that I do talk about, especially on the campaign trail, is I have been in a position where I feel like I'm a translator. So I feel like I'm translating the lived experiences of clients to judges. However, oftentimes, or many times, maybe not often, many times, I find myself having to explain very basic things. And I believe that, a judge is not just a learned professional and they understand the law, but they also have empathy and compassion, and the way in which they comport themselves and how they treat the people who come into their courtroom. And so that is essentially at the heart of why I am running, is that I believe that I do embody those skill sets, that to whomever comes into the courtroom, whether it's the individual who has, been charged with a crime, or it's the witness, or it's the bailiff, or it's the family. I believe that everyone who walks into a courtroom should be treated with dignity as well as respect, and the person who's sitting on the bench should uphold themselves with integrity. And again, I believe I embody those characteristics, which is why I would like to continue serving other people.
And in your 7 years as a public defender, I would imagine you've probably dealt with some hostility on occasion.
Yeah, yeah, all, all the time. One of the things I will say about being a public defender is that you are on every side. So you're on the side of the person who's like, thank you for being such a kind person and taking care of my case or taking care of my kid. You're also on the side of the judge, and they're like, why are we arguing? It's like, well, I'm arguing on behalf of my client. So unfortunately, I'm rubbing feathers, or on the side of the state, of like, why are you, making these arguments on behalf of this person, this individual, or I just have a client who just does not like me. But at the end of the day, my sense of self and how I react and how I interact with those people does not change. Um, it's interesting. So I'm in a position where I have clients sometimes that may or may not agree with who I am as a person, whether it's because I'm a woman or it's because I'm an African American or a little bit of both, right? Like I still provide the same professionalism and respect, regardless of how other individuals see me.
Yeah. And so, moving from a defense role where you have things are goal oriented to some extent, right? You want to do the best for your client. Is a little frightening thinking about moving into a position where that isn't necessarily right. You're not an advocate
Right.
anymore. It's a little different. For me, it just seems very foreign.
Right.
Not to be an advocate. I don't envy someone wanting to go
That's
on the
fair.
bench for that reason. But
So I tell this story that when I was younger, I was bullied, which is kind of the crux of why I'm an advocate. You never want to feel like, how you feel when someone talks about you. And for me, I also didn't want other people to feel that, which gets me into the, hey, I'm going to be an advocate and now I'm going to be a public defender, which essentially advocates on behalf of others, regardless of their ability to pay for private counsel. I don't think um, I don't think that I'm supposed to be an advocate forever. And I know that may sound shocking to you, but I believe that where I am in this position in my life, that transitioning to someone being able to decide and determine what is just and what is fair and what is, within the comports of the law, that is wrapped in, shrouded in integrity and understanding is where I am. And it might be because I just had two kids, but that is where I'm transitioning, and I think that I would be really good at that.
yeah, and I think honestly, the best attorneys and the best judges see both sides of things. Even if you can't put yourself in a victim's shoes, it's hard to figure out how things should move forward, right? Even as a defense attorney, I mean, that's one of the
Yeah,
first things I think you probably do. So,
yeah, and it's. I think there oftentimes there's confusion with if you're a defense attorney, you don't think about the lived experiences of the victims, right? But I think I am human, and I at some point have been a victim. I at some point have been an advocate, so it is not foreign to me to understand and put myself in someone else's shoes just because of the various lived experiences that I've had so far that have placed me in those two very what I don't believe they're juxtaposed, but very binary positions.
and the justice of the peace role to some extent has changed over the years, maybe even since you've been here, right? For example, traffic
Yeah.
cases have went from being criminal with warrants and all sorts of things to being civil violations, those sorts of things. Do you have any vision, any thoughts about the changes that have happened, what should have happened?
So I have seen just kind of like what a person's life could be when they go through, say, like the process. So, say an individual has been arrested, they have accepted a negotiation, and I'm speaking specifically to the Las Vegas Justice Court. So they have a misdemeanor conviction for, we'll say, trespass. I know that getting that removed or getting that sealed completely shifts and changes their lives. And I believe that the changes that I would love to see for the Las Vegas Justice Court are consistent, if not yearly, record sealing events. Um, I believe that the justice of the pieces are in a very interesting position in that, while they mostly handle bail and they handle preliminary hearings of felony matters. Um, they oversee individuals who have like a trespass or a battery or an assault or misdemeanors that don't rise to the level of district court. But when you get those sealed, that changes, an individual and what they can do, where they can work, where they're going to live. And if we're thinking about safety and we're thinking about the safety of the community, I think that allowing people to reclaim their life, not from what they've done when they were 18 or 19, to mark them for the rest of their life, I think that having that program would, you know, be marvelous and it would be really beneficial to those in the community.
Yeah, and some of the times, justice of the peace, for the viewers that don't know, handle preliminary hearings. They do misdemeanor trials. A
Yes.
big part of the practice. And there's a tendency, I think, with attorneys to think, well, it's a misdemeanor, it doesn't make a difference. But 10 days in custody can mean somebody losing their home, somebody
Does.
losing their job.
It
It can
does.
be a severe consequence if you don't have somebody level-headed in the justice of the peace role.
Yeah, and it's funny, and I'm glad you said that. Um, because yes, 10 days can mean, okay, well, your job says no call, no show. We're going to let you go. You don't have a job. You can't pay for your car that may be stuck on the street that is now in a tow yard. Now that you don't have a car, how are you going to, either get a job or get to work or even get to your kids or get, if you're a caretaker, get to whomever you're taking care of. And these are things that I think are important for judges to think about and to consider, because the role is not, it is very serious. We're dealing with the liberty and the lives of individuals. And so I don't think decisions are made, on a whim. They're very thoughtful. They are taking into account information from the client, from the state, as well as from the defense. And I think that judges are integral in that, in ensuring the safety of others.
And you seized on the word that I was going to follow up with, which is thoughtful. I mean, I think we need thoughtful people on the bench that are empathetic to all the parties, right? Not everybody's going to walk out happy.
Yes, that is true. Not everyone is going to walk out happy, but it is one thing to note that the person who is sitting on the bench fully thought about the decision that they made, and it's backed by law or it's backed by reason. And that's one of the biggest things just about me as a person, even in my advocacy, is that, I'm making these arguments, I'm putting in these cases, tell me your reason and tell me why. Um, because I can stand on, okay, this is a very well thought out reason as to why you denied my motion or why you granted my motion, and where I can improve.
Great. Well, thank you for coming out for us. I know you're busy on the campaign trail right now. I want to give you the opportunity to tell the people at home anything that you'd like to end up our interview.
Well, first and foremost, thank you, Scott, for
Yeah.
this interview. Again, my name is Jessica Smith-Peterson. I am running for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 4. I am running in this race because I want to continue the service that I have been doing for the community. I want to continue ensuring that our community is safe and that we are protected, and that there is integrity, as well as ensuring that everyone who walks into that courtroom will be treated with respect and with dignity and as a person, whether you are a defendant, whether you are an attorney, whether you are a witness, whether you are a court clerk, or whether you're just someone who is watching court. So I want to thank our Nevada judges for allowing me this opportunity to talk about who I am and what I do and why I want to be your next Justice of the Peace for Las Vegas Justice Court Department 4.
Great. Thank you so much. On behalf of our Nevada judges, I've been Scott Coffey, your host today. We don't endorse candidates here, but I think there's one thing that we can endorse. If you're watching this, you've got an opinion about things, get out and vote. Your vote is going to matter at the end of the year. It could change judicial races, it could change our country. Whatever your opinion is, get out and vote. If you're willing to watch this, it's not that hard to get down to the ballot box. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you.